Welcome into Campo and Joe. Always a pleasure to hang out with my good friend Dave Campo. Talk a little Jaguar ball. Our head coach, Joe C. from XL Primetime, and all of y'all. All of Duval pretty stoked about the new beginnings that we've got. And that's basically what we're going to attack today. But anything Jaguar related, Campo and Joe now twice weekly. So make sure you keep up with everything that's going on, because we'll do one live show on Friday on StreamYard, and then, of course, right here with all the social channels. So, Coach, I figure we probably need to start off with the biggest piece of news. Since you and I actually talked on Friday, they made the hire of James Gladstone. I was rooting hard for him to get this gig. And then we heard his presser yesterday. We've already heard from him again today up at the Combine. So let's at least start there. What do you think about the hire?
Well, first of all, I like it because the track record is there.
Yeah.
You know, he came in from the L.A. Rams. The L.A. Rams have done a great job. I know some people out there that I talked with, and they said he was very, very involved with everything. So it's not like this guy's coming in as a rookie.
Okay.
You know, he's coming in, you know, when you talk about draft strategy, that's what it's all about. Yeah. And that's what he was. He was a VP of draft strategy, you know. And so to me, I'm excited about that. I think he brings an energy and an excitement in. He's a smart guy. And to me, that's a plus. Now, you know, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you know, I believe he will come in with a definite plan of what got them to where they were at L.A. And you look at Puka Nacua, and there's a couple of other examples, but that sticks out to me as being a low-round draft pick that is unbelievable, really. And so I like the guy. I think it's going to be a good move all the way around.
I went crazy. I made myself a little crazy last year by constantly looking at what L.A. did and what Jacksonville didn't do.
Right.
And Puka Nacua was the one that I would always zero in on. 177th draft pick, okay, drafted way late. And then I kind of got on a little diatribe yesterday on XL Primetime about the time they're drafting Puka Nacua, or at least in that same time, area of the draft. Last year, the Jaguars were drafting Keelan Robinson, another running back that served little or no purpose for this football team. Instead of going and getting my guy, Christian Mahogany was the one that I wanted as an offensive lineman in the 6th round. Bottom line is there's a major change in philosophy, and we're going to see if the results, like you said, that's all it boils down to, if he can restore this roster through the draft.
I think, you know, he's got a good background, as I said, and, you know, he talks a lot about intangibles. And to me, that's something that's been missing in the game, and especially with quarterbacks. You know, you look at the quarterbacks that have really made it, there's intangibles there that don't measure how strong his arm is, how, you know, can he make all these throws, can he do all this? Well, a lot of it is intangibles, and that's what he brought up a number of times. I love it.
All right, hit me with a couple of those from that quarterback position. Kind of give us an idea of what you're thinking, because as soon as you said it, I'm thinking Joe Burrow went number 1 because of injury to Tua, and he may not have been regarded as the better of the two, but I think we can probably say now he's the better of the two.
Right. Well,
with intangibles.
Yeah, and I can use, you know, Lamar Jackson.
Sure.
I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't anybody picking him to be as high as he was. That was a pick that a number of people couldn't have that didn't make, that are killing themselves right now.
Including right here in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So to me, it's we had a guy at Boise State. Now, I'm going way back now.
Right.
And we had a choice between two quarterbacks, and the head coach, Jim Kreiner, said, I was recruiting one of them, and our offensive coordinator was recruiting another one. And he wanted the other one, and I wanted my guy. My guy was Joe Aliotti, who, if you watched him throw, you would say, well, you know, this, that, and the other thing. Okay. National championship for Boise. Okay. He went with us because the guy in one game was 35 for 39.
Oh.
Now, I don't care
what
he looks like.
Right.
He had the intangible of being able to win games. In the 4th quarter of the national championship game against Western Kentucky.
Right.
4th down, he rolled all the way to his right and jumped in the air and threw it all the way back across the end zone to a guy in the back end zone on the other side of the field to win the national championship.
That's awesome.
And made 3 fourth-down plays on the drive that won the football game.
Are you telling me he was
That's intangibles.
Oh, I love it. Are you telling me he was the originator of the jump pass and not Tim Tebow?
I don't know if he's originator, but he sure took it to his advantage.
Okay, now you made me think of another guy. And this is – and I'm going to take it from intangibles to that baller mentality, because Baker Mayfield probably defied a few odds by being the number 1 overall pick, and then – probably panned by a lot of people saying he wasn't worthy of the number 1 pick. Well, then take a look at what he has done over the last couple of seasons with 2 different offensive coordinators, and we talked about him last week as well. But I think that's an intangible that Baker Mayfield has in his DNA that says, you know what, I will not give up. I will not relent. I am going to get everything out of my God-given ability, and he's proven it these last couple of years.
You're right. I mean, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just some guys are just are not going to – they're going to find a way to finish one way or another.
Right.
And I think he's one of those guys. And, again, I think you have to play into that, which I think Liam Cohen understands that, and he's such a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are the guys that have a chance to make it.
Okay, so this is a dumb question, which means this has more than one answer. But did Baker get that out of himself, or did Liam Cohen get it out of him?
Well, I think some of it's inside.
Yeah, has to.
But I mean, you have to tune into that and play into that as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to say, everything is a gamble.
Right.
Rasheed Mathis, when I was here, was a corner that went from safety to corner. When I came in, I saw the talent there, but he had just moved over to corner. He was not a good technique player.
Out of Inglewood and out of Bethune-Cookman.
Absolutely, and hadn't been over there. He'd been a safety. Mm-hmm. So I came in, I showed him on film. I said, hey, look, I know you're good. Mm-hmm. Believe me. And I know you're a competitor. And I knew that going in. Mm-hmm. So I said, I already know what you do good, but I want to show you what you don't do well. And we sat down and watched film, and at the end of it, I said, Rasheed, if you buy into me, I'll have you in the Pro Bowl in 2 years. Yeah. Well, he made it in 1 year. That's a gamble, on my part. Mm-hmm. But that's tuning into what I see from the guy, and that's the same thing with Baker Mayfield. If both of those coordinators did a good job with him.
Yeah.
Is it Casario?
It was Dave Canales.
Canales,
and
I'm
then
sorry.
he went up and took the job.
I know it was a C, but it was Canales.
And so he took the job in Carolina, and you might even give him a little bit of credit when Bryce Young was sat down and then ultimately regained his starting job up in Carolina. He was better. He was different. Worked with a little more confidence and did more things down the stretch to make you believe in him. And it is the coach's job.
That's the teaching part of it. That's the ability to relate. That's why I like this staff in a lot of ways, because I can see that in some of these guys.
All right, we're going to go through a little bit more of the staff. That's what I'm hoping for as well. But the other part of it is let's just start with one thing with the coach and the general manager in mind, because this was such an odd offseason, the way things unfolded. You fire your coach, you don't fire your GM. You zero in on a guy that no one else necessarily is zeroing in on. He removes his name from consideration. You find out that he's not going to be in a building with Balky, and then you fire Balky. We all know what happened, and it just went nuts. It was just such an odd way to get where we are. But the one thing that did jump out at me is that both Gladstone and Liam have a history. They have worked together before in L.A., and then they also said that both of them mentioned the lines of scrimmage.
Right.
And I don't know whether one said, you better say it along with me, but Liam said it right off the jump, and then Gladstone repeated it.
Yeah, well, you know how I've always felt that, people have asked our show, your show, not my show.
Oh, it's our show.
Your show, the primetime show, about, how do you fix Trevor Lawrence? Mm-hmm. And my answer to that is fix the front and run the football. Yeah. Take the pressure off the guy. Let him be what he is. He's a baller. He's a guy that can do a lot of things, but he can't do it if the defenses in this league right now are so fast and so good that if they know when you're going to throw the ball all the time, you're in trouble.
Right.
They're going to crank it up, and you've got a real problem.
That's exactly what happened, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's not all about protection.
Mm-hmm.
Protection is some of our offensive line at times protected pretty good here.
Yeah.
But it's the balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's when they don't know exactly what you're going to do. When all of a sudden you're in your mind, you're thinking as a coach, okay, they're going to run the ball this time, and you drop that safety in there, and all of a sudden the guy's running a takeoff right down the middle.
Exactly.
You know, that's the difference in my mind with this game today, and that's why I think the running game is coming back into the league.
Mm-hmm.
It was getting to be too much spread the field and just throw the ball all over the place.
Yeah, it's true, and I love it. And hear what Coach said from his defensive DNA, his brain, is that his job is to take away whatever you do well and force you to do the other thing. And everyone says, well, why do you need balance? If you can throw it all over that's why you need balance, because at some point, a good game plan defensively is going to rob you of whatever it is you are most confident doing.
Absolutely. And that's the difference between pro football and college football.
Mm-hmm.
In college football, you know, if you go into a game and you take away the 5 best plays that offense does in key situations, you got a pretty good chance of winning. Mm-hmm. In the NFL, if you take away the 5 best, they'll come out running the same 5 plays because of all the experience and the coaching staff and the players.
Right.
They'll run it and block it 4 different ways, and all of a sudden you haven't done anything. Yeah. So it's a constant game of adjustment. And the more balanced you are on offense, the tougher it is to adjust on defense. I can promise you that. I don't know a lot of stuff, but I do know that for sure.
100%. And the other thing that I think is the most encouraging is that 2 guys, one in the front office, one that's going to head coach this club, know that line of scrimmage needs to be repaired mightily, and not just on one side of the ball, on both sides of the ball. And then the other part of it is that I guess, like you said, the running game is coming back in because defenses have finally figured out a way to at least neutralize some of what happened, because the offense was up. The officials were probably coached to officiate a game that would produce more points.
Absolutely.
and defenses were getting a little worn out over this bad boy, and they're like, well, dang, man, we got to figure it out. And so the run game will bring some respect back to the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely. Right? That's the thing I'm the most interested in seeing, because to me it's the key to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And you know, you talk about both lines of scrimmage. On defense, you know, if you can affect the quarterback without having to blitz all the time, that's a tremendous advantage as well. Yeah. But the guys that have an idea of when to blitz and where to blitz is sometimes based on you getting a read on the offense when they're predictable and they're in a situation where you know they're going to throw the football. Here I come.
Right. Yeah. And as long as if you're a good play caller, which you were a play caller on defense, and then obviously what you're hoping Liam Cohen does is that I want to run a set of plays that I think I can be successful at. You're trying to counter my move. When you counter my move, I got to be ready to counter again. Right. And then you'll go into the half and you'll go in the locker room and you make a few adjustments, and he's determined to take something else away from you that you were successful at. Well, then you got to be ready for that. And the cat and mouse game that does go on game day for 60 minutes and maybe 60 plays from either side of the ball, holy cow, that's just great theater.
That's great.
If you get it right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole game in the NFL, in my opinion. Now, obviously, the game is played with the guys on the field, not the coaches. Yeah. But if the coaches weren't important, there wouldn't be any.
I know.
Why pay a guy? I don't know what Liam's getting. Somebody said 12 or 13 million. If we don't need them, don't pay them. Let those guys go out and play ball. That's it.
Just imagine he got a huge pay raise because he was going to go from being what was he, coach? Maybe a $3 million coordinator to a $4.5 million coordinator.
Right.
So he was getting a huge pay raise. And then, I don't know, about 72 hours later, he got triple what that pay raise ended up being, which is just nuts. All right, so I guess a couple of other things I think we need to zero in on right now is that the job of Liam, and he was on 1010XL earlier today from the Combine, and he said he finally got to exhale a little bit when he was talking with Frank Frangie, that first thing you did was accept the job. The next thing you did was starting to look at your roster. The next thing you did was, how am I going to make this roster better by hiring a good staff?
Right.
Well, then they did that. And I don't know if you caught all of the interview, but it sounded like when he hired the staff, he wasn't done until he made sure that he had a hand in hiring that GM. And then he said he could exhale a little bit and relax and kind of see this thing come together now.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fast-moving operation.
Yeah.
Think back to a year or 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
how long it took to hire Doug Peterson.
Took a while.
Yeah, well, this one went faster.
Yeah.
When you really look at it. Now, they looked at a lot of guys the same way, but they had to make some move fast once they made the decision, this is the direction we're going. The fastest part of it was the GM.
Yeah.
Because of
Very true.
not doing it right away with Balky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's something, I believe that they have to be on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
The general manager and the head coach have to be on the same page. And I think that was part of the whole process right there.
Yeah, and Tony Baselli may not put a whistle around his neck and draw up ball plays, and he may not throw tape on and evaluate and scout and all that kind of stuff, but he actually could be one of the most important threads for this whole deal. And I'm not going to gloss on him and say he's ready and he can knock it out of the park. I'm not going to say that yet. I just want to see what happens. But it does look like his attitude, his personality, and how he played is going to breathe some life into this building. He's been in this building, but this is in a totally different way now.
Yeah, and the other thing you have to look at with Tony is, to me, if these young guys, they don't know a lot of guys.
They don't even know who he is.
Well, they do know who he is, though, because he's in the Hall of Fame.
True, very true.
So his relationship is going to be with the players.
Mm-hmm.
That's what his job is. His job is making sure that everybody has what they need and do all these different things.
Yeah.
So he can be a salesman for this coaching staff,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because he will have the ear of some of those guys in the locker room. Believe me, if Leon Searcy went down to into that locker room, people might not have known who he is, but it wouldn't take him long to figure out who he is.
Yeah, once they found out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's where he brings something to the table that is more than, that's why I texted him when he got the job and I said, hey, I'm really excited about you helping to bring the pride back into the Jaguars, and I think that that's why he's here, to be honest with you. But now he's a smart guy as well.
Well, here's the other thing I think that changed is that Trent Baalke was the, quote, eyes and ears of Shad Khan, because he had basically undermined every other authority in the building to make him be the confidant to Shad. Now, Tony is the eyes and ears for Shad in large part.
Yeah, we think that's the case, but we don't know that sure, but that's probably
that's
true.
That's what I believe.
Oh, it's probably true.
And so now, basically, I guess the way I'm looking at this is Shad is saying, hey, Tony, I respect you for your football career and what you've done in this town and for this team.
Right.
I'm not always going to be here. I need you to energize this football team.
Absolutely.
I need you to look and see what needs to be done. You may not be doing one thing all the time, but figure out all the things that need to be done. At least that's how I'm viewing it.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
And I think, one of his jobs is overseeing the media.
Mm-hmm.
So what goes out of here is going to be a big part of what the players hear. And you can say whatever you want. The players listen.
Yeah.
They say, well, we don't listen. We got our own deal. Baloney. Yeah. They know everything that's going on. They know what's happening in the community. Yeah. And so I think he's a real plus. There's no question in my mind he is.
All right, so just a couple of other things. As we look at the entire coaching staff, there's a ton of names. The average age is way young. There's no getting away from that. But there's also some guys that do have pedigree, experience. We can use Heath Farwell as an example, as a holdover from the last staff to remain special teams coordinator. Spencer Whipple's a guy who's been around for a while. Shane Waldron does come in as the passing game coordinator.
Ron Milas, the secondary coach.
Exactly.
He's been in the league for 30 years.
Yeah, so those guys count, right? And then senior defensive assistant Bill Sheridan was added. And then Eric Ciano, the strength and conditioning director that comes over from Buffalo.
They love him, by the way.
That was announced yesterday. Tell us about that.
Well, he, I don't know why they fired him at Buffalo.
I don't know whether they felt like they got moved around at the line of scrimmage or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the players love him up there.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's a real good hire as well. Mm-hmm. And Bill Sheridan's been around for a long time as well, in and out of the league. But he's been a coordinator in the league in 2 places. Mm-hmm. He's with the forcing unit as well. He was a linebacker coach for a number of years. So, Jimmy was the guy that convinced me. Mm-hmm. The best coordinators really are not the D-line coaches. They're the linebacker coach or the secondary coach. But the linebacker coach is usually the best ones because they see both sides of the front and the back. So I'm hopeful that he will help as well.
And so they added a couple of offensive assistants along with Bill Sheridan on the defensive side, a run game specialist, assistant offensive line coach, and then they did the announcement for the strength and conditioning, and they basically added 3 guys to that training program to come in here. And so it isn't going to be Trent bulky, bigger, faster, stronger. They want to have some accountability in there, and you don't just need to go in there and add bulk. I thought Andre Cisco did not look like the same player last year. Might have looked bigger, but did not look like the same player.
Right.
So there's always going to be, I believe, a balance that you have. You got to be able to play with intensity and intent on every single play for 4 quarters, and you need to be as big and strong as you can, but remain as fast as you can.
Absolutely, and the strength staff is very similar to me to the regular staff from the standpoint that all of those guys have to be on the same page, all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. The guys that are working with him on a steady basis, they all have to have kind of the same philosophy, and that's why I'm sure that the new strength coach had a say in who the guys are that are with him as well. So.
16 seasons in the NFL for Schiano, and he'll come in here as the director. His entire career was up in Buffalo.
Right.
And I do think it's usually a good sign when a guy enters a building working for a franchise and stays there and moves up.
Right.
Because that means he's doing the right things.
Yep.
Doesn't always mean he's great, but it definitely – they didn't run him out of the building. James Gladstone from NFL front office perspective is a guy who entered the building in L.A. and stayed there.
Right.
And you could name a handful of others like that as well.
And, there is something to the effect that this is a new beginning for them, too, which to me just re-energizes you.
Right.
If you've been with one club for a long time, that's part of the problem sometimes, that things get complacent.
Yep.
But now all of a sudden, I got more accountability now because I'm with a new program, and I've got a chance to re-energize myself and go at it. So that might be a factor as well.
All right, I'm not going to necessarily run all the free agents out of town right now, but you and I, over the next handful of weeks, we're going to be taking a look at some of these guys, and Christian Kirk will probably be one of the guys that will be talked about a bunch. Is his contract worth it? Is he willing to restructure it? Can he come back and be a huge force in the passing game or receiving game? But he's going to be one of those kind of high water marks when it comes to salary cap. If you lop it off, you save quite a bit of money. And can they do something with that in the draft? At least right now, they're standing pat on that conversation. They're not going to say anything.
Yeah, they're not going to say anything. And the one thing that Gladstone did say, though, when he was asked by – I forget who asked it, but are there guys, is the quarterback going to have any relationship situation where that may make a difference whether a guy's on the roster or not? And he did say absolutely. Now, he's not going to be picking guys, I promise you. They're going to pick the guys. Yeah. They're not going to say, okay, do you want this guy or that guy? No. But if he has a comfort level with somebody, and he certainly does with Kirk.
Sure.
The problem with Kirk is the injury factor.
Yeah.
That has to be mitigated. Somewhere along the line, that has to come into play as to whether or not he's going to be with us or not. But if it was up to the quarterback, I believe Kirk would be here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and this comes down to comfort level. Sure, they have made plays together. They have been successful. Personality-wise, they definitely get along. They like one another. But you can't leave those tough decisions up to one friend as to whether or not he's going to keep another
Correct.
friend.
Correct.
You can't do that.
There's going to be an evaluation one way or another. That's why I say the injury factor, that's not coming into Trevor Lawrence's wheelhouse. That's being done by the administration and the head coach and whoever.
All right. So as we wrap this up, and we need to start taking a look, I guess next week or maybe even Friday based on what we're getting out of the combine, we'll start to zero in on some position groups and where we think this team may be going. Now, we still have to figure out what's going to happen in free agency for us to tell the tale. But this is what we have in front of us, so we'll start talking at least a few draft prospects.
Absolutely. And I think, the fans that want to watch the combine, you're looking at athletic ability. That's all you're looking at.
Yeah.
I would say the fronts are somebody that we're going to be talking about on both sides of the ball. Look at the 10 time and the 40, not the 40.
Yeah.
When you're watching it, whatever you're looking at, very seldom do offensive or defensive linemen run 40 yards. So look at the 10 times. And then with the skill guys, look obviously their speed, but also look at their ability to change direction. Those are the kind of things as a fan that you can look at and get an idea what's out there.
All right, break it down with us. We appreciate you guys hanging out, Campo and Joe. We will talk to you on Friday with another live show as we come to you. So just make sure you keep up with everything as we try and keep you up with everything Jaguar related. Joe C. and Coach Campo will talk to you on Friday.